Okay, Dr. Mindy here, and if you've been watching my Facebook Lives, you know that I specialize in teaching people how to reset their health. So it is December 23rd. I don't know what day you're watching this on, and from here until New Year's Day is probably the most dangerous time for your health. We've got like tonight's Saturday. I know we have a party tonight, we have a party tomorrow night, and then of course it's Christmas Day. And I know a lot of you are going to be consuming some of these beverages that you see here in front of me. So I really wanted to do a Facebook Live on how do you navigate alcohol. If you're going to drink alcohol, which one is the best to drink? So the first thing I want you to understand is that when you drink alcohol, during the time that the alcohol is in your system, your liver shuts down all fat burning capabilities. So if you're trying to lose weight and you're drinking alcohol, those two do not go hand in hand. It's very difficult to lose weight when you're drinking alcohol. So that's the first thing I want you to know. The second thing is, yes, there are some smart ways to go about this, and that's what I'm going to show you over the next few minutes of how I navigate it, what I teach my patients. And when you want to drink alcohol, there are some really bad choices and there are some really good choices. So the first thing I did here is I put the alcohol or the wine in order of sugar content. So I'm going to talk about these at the end, so those are separate. But if you look at this has the lowest sugar content. This is alcohol or vodka, and it goes all the way up to red wine and beer. Now, if you've been following me at all, you know that I'm a huge fan of red wine. I have a very specific way that we drink red wine, and I'm going to explain that at the end of this video. So, but the first thing to know is that the lowest, like if you walk up to a bar, a vodka soda is probably going to have the least amount of impact on your blood sugar. It's going to keep your blood sugar the lowest possible. And as you go up to like a hard cider or even up to a liqueur, then you're going to see that the blood sugar spike is going to be much higher. So the second thing I want you to think about is in order to get the alcohol, where did it come from? What was the food that it came from? So like vodka came from potato, okay? So this is an organic vodka. There's so many organic vodkas out there. I think it's a smart choice if you get it organic. If it's not organic, it's just like your fruits and vegetables. It's sprayed by pesticides and it's sprayed by glyphosate. Tequila comes from blue agave. So if you've been on Facebook for a while, you've probably seen that there's these wonderful little videos that are going around saying that this is great, it's a great probiotic. Well, blue agave is a great probiotic, but by the time you turn it into tequila, it has no probiotic benefit at all. So if you're drinking tequila thinking that you're helping your microbiome, you are not. So I want to dispel that myth because I get those videos get sent to me. I specialize in gut repair in my office, and I get at least one of those a month, people asking me about tequila. There is no probiotic benefit. Okay, then you've got things like whiskey. So those of you that are trying to stay grain-free or wheat-free, whiskey comes from grains. So again, if you can get it organic, great, but it's still a grain. It's like having a piece of toast. So if you're trying to stay off of grains and you're drinking whiskey, those two don't match. Then of course you've got things like hard ciders. This comes from apples. Hopefully you know that. These are coming from grapes. Hopefully you know that. I don't even know what the heck is in this stuff, but I can tell you that these are going to be full of more chemicals and sugars. Liqueurs in general, you've got a few more mystery things going on inside of these. They're also, so sweet, and they will cause your blood sugar to spike tremendously. And then you've got red wine and you've got beer. So let's talk about these, because I find in my practice and in my life, this is where I see most people trying to figure out how to do wine and beer healthy. So the first thing I gotta tell you is I absolutely love beer, but I have not found a healthy way to do it. Yes, you can get some organic. Yes, you can get some gluten-free Beers, although I've heard from a lot of different sources that even the gluten-free beers aren't 100% gluten-free. So beer is just not something that I would drink. And any of you that have had candida, ringing in the ears, brain fog, bloated belly, that beer is going to only accelerate that. So let's talk about wine. So the interesting thing about wine is that the labeling on wine is really poor. So there are no wines, there's no label on here to tell you if they've added any sugar. There's nothing on here to tell you how many pesticides or glyphosate that's in this. So wine is really a poor industry as far as helping us understand if it's healthy or not. If you've watched my videos, you know I'm a fan of Dry Farm Wines. You can go to dryfarmwines.com. And they have done the homework for us. They have picked small batch wineries. Most of their wineries that are the wines that they get are coming from France and Italy. And their criteria is that there has to be no added sugar, there has to be no pesticides, and that the alcohol content needs to be below 12.5. So the higher the alcohol content, often you'll get a higher spike in your blood sugar. So we in our house, we drink Dry Farm wines. And if you look at what wine is in general, there's a lot of good qualities to wine. There's resveratrol, which will help slow down the aging process. Those of you that are coming to my anti-aging event on January 6th, we're gonna talk about the health benefits of resveratrol and specifically wine. There's some theory that, especially with Dry Farm wine, they're using wild organic yeast that may actually have a damaging effect to candida type yeasts. Doesn't mean if you have candida you should go rush off and drink a bunch of Dry Farm wine, but it does mean that there can be some health benefits to wine in moderation. Now, one of the things that we do is when we go to try to pick wine from a menu or from a store, there's some criteria we use as well. So, I live in Northern California. I love Napa wines. My understanding from talking to Todd White, who's the owner of Dry Farm Wines and has tested thousands and thousands of wines for glyphosate, that many of the Northern Napa, Sonoma wines have glyphosate in them. They have pesticides in them. In fact, he told me that he hasn't been able to carry one Napa Valley wine in for his company because of the added glyphosate and pesticides in it. So when we go to the store, we look for Italian and we look for French. In France, they have some really strict laws around glyphosate right now. So the chances of you getting any glyphosate in your wine that from French wine are pretty slim. So we look for anything that, like we got this one at Whole Foods. We look for if it says organic. We look for the alcohol content. This one is 13%. So that's not as good as a Dry Farm wine, but it's 13%, whereas a Dry Farm wine would be 12.5. You'll notice if you sit down, like if you just look at the alcohol of wine, you'll notice when you sit down at a menu or when you get a bottle at a table, you'll see that so many wines are like 14.5% alcohol, plus they have added sugar in it. That's a lot. That's what makes you feel a little woozy when you drink wine. Whereas these lower alcohol wines are not going to have that much of an effect. So then, I don't know, again, I specialize in the microbiome. I like trying to keep my gut healthy through this holiday season. So I'm doing a lot of kombucha, low sugar kombucha. You want to make sure, like this one has only 7 grams of sugar. So you want to make sure that some kombuchas are really sweet. They're really high in sugar. So if you're going to do a vodka soda, you could do a vodka kombucha. We've done that combo before on like New Year's Eve and parties like that. So you're adding in some good probiotics into your gut while you're drinking. You're adding some things in while your body's dealing with the alcohol. And then of course, you've heard me, hopefully if this is the first time you've heard me, you probably haven't heard this, but I'm a huge fan of Restore. This is a liquid that I take first thing in the morning and right before I eat dinner, and I do a teaspoon before I drink anything. So Restore has been shown in a lab to close any micro holes that may be present in your gut, and so that none of this alcohol, none of the toxins in these alcohols, the pesticides in these alcohols will actually get into the bloodstream and cause an immune response by your body, an inflammatory response, or worse yet, going up into the brain and the pesticides and glyphosate can go up into the brain and sit up there and damage the brain over time. So that's my alcohol story. And, you know, of course, everything in moderation. I'm a huge fan of dry farm wines. This is what you will see me drinking this holiday. I'm also a huge fan of Restore, and I'm a huge fan of kombucha. So that will be, if you were to find me at a party over the next couple days, that's what I would be drinking. And then again, you know, just start searching for this stuff. There's organic in here. We found this at Whole Foods. This is an organic Austrian wine. You know, when people ask me what's my #1 food and drink rule, it really is organic. I think that bottom line, things have to be organic, otherwise you're getting, you know, a glass full of pesticides. And pesticides have been proven over and over and over again to cause cancer. So we want to minimize the impact of those toxins coming in. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comment section. And I'd love to know, those of you who've been following me, those of you that are ketogenic, those of you that are trying to stay healthy, what's your favorite alcohol? What's your favorite drink? I want to know what you're drinking. And as always, share this. Let's get it out. I'm trying to start a movement of empowered people that are empowered to take care of their own health. And the only way that we're going to empower our neighbors is through education. That's the only way you're going to stay healthy is when you learn. So share this and have an amazing holiday.